Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Peter. Today, we're looking at CSS custom properties. What are they, how to use them, and also how to manipulate them using JavaScript. CSS custom properties. These are entities defined by CSS authors to be reused throughout the style sheet. We find ourselves rewriting the same CSS property over and over and over again. Probably you have the same color that you're using in a particular section. You're still using that same color in another section, or maybe your padding. You have the same value somewhere, and then you keep rewriting that value over and over again. Or perhaps maybe just it can be anything. It can actually be anything that you are reusing over and over again in different places, and then you find yourself that you have to keep rewriting these things. That is what we'll be addressing today using the CSS custom properties. So you define these CSS properties and then you are able to reuse them everywhere in your style sheet without having to write the same thing over and over and again. So if you look at my desktop here, I've got a folder called custom. So I'm going to open up with VS Code. Now I have inside here, I have a file, I have an index.html file, I have a folder called JS, which has a file inside called main.js. Then I have another folder called CSS, which has a file inside called style.css. Now we'll get back to those ones. Let's go to the index.html. Now let us simply have a simple HTML element here. So I have this one. I'm just going to change this title to say CSS custom properties. Why would you actually want to write custom properties for your CSS? Well, like I said earlier, many times you find yourself rewriting the same thing over and over and again. And then you would want to do theming sometimes in your site. So you want to have consistent colors, consistent maybe value for probably padding or maybe margin, and many other reasons, like I said. So I'm going to have a div, that's a class of container. And this div is going to have a child, which is just going to be, let's say, h2, that has a class of title. And then this div is going to have two buttons inside. So these buttons, the first one is going to have a class of dark, and then the other one is going to have a class of light. So I'm going to use them for a purpose later on. So if I save this, let me format this better. All right. So we have a div and a h2, then two buttons. So I'm just going to write dark here. I'm also going to write light here. Then in the title, I'm going to say CSS custom properties. Go to live server. If you don't have live server installed, just go to the Explorer pad, go to extensions here, click on extensions, and type live server. So once you have live server here, you see live server pop up, click on it, then click on install. You also say install, so you click on install. After installing live server, you can go back to your HTML here. Let me leave this place. And then inside your HTML, you right click, then you look, let me minimize a bit. You click, you see open with live server here. So you see open with live server, and then you click on it. You can also come down here and click on go live. So either one will work for you. So I'm just going to right click and I'm going to click on open with live server. Okay, so I've opened it up with live server. I'm just going to split the screen. I'm going to make the browser smaller and then increase my text editor. Okay, so if you look at what we have now, we have CSS custom properties, then we have a dark button and a light button. So I'm going to use that to showcase the JavaScript part of this. So let me go back to here and then link my CSS. So I go here and then I say link. So I want to link my CSS. It has a relationship of style sheet, and the href is going to be ./css / style.css. I'm going to say ./css / style.css. That is the name of my CSS. Remember, my CSS is in an external folder, so I have to, but the folder is in the same level as my index.html. If you look at it here, so I'm going to say right, go into this folder and then find the style.css. Now it's actually empty, there is nothing inside. So now I've linked my CSS. Let me confirm that I've linked it by just changing the body and saying that the background color should be red. Obviously, red is like console.log. Okay, so it's fine. It's working. My CSS is linked fine. First of all, what I'm going to do is that I am going to remove all this. There are all these properties that the browser has given default ones. So there's a bit of padding here. There are padding. That is why they are not touching this edge. So I'm going to remove everything there on the screen by selecting by using the generic star, which simply means select everything. So I'm going to say we have a margin of 0 and a padding of 0. Then I'm going to say scroll behavior of smooth so that it doesn't snap around. And then I'm going to say box slash sizing should be border box. Now I save and you see everything is gone. So the other thing I'm going to do is that I just want to select the HTML and the body, and I'm going to say I want it to have a position of relative and then a width of 100% and a height of 100%, and then a base font size of 6 pixels, and also add a font weight of, let's say, 600. All right, so this is what we have here. Now there are two ways that we could use CSS custom properties. Now let's demonstrate the first one. So I'm going to select the class called container, this div here that contains these elements. So I'm going to select this particular div here. So go back to my CSS. Let me close this. I can say dot container, which is how we select CSS class, and I'm going to say I want to give it a background color. So I'm going to say dash. I want to give it a background color. But before I do that, I want to declare a variable that I can reuse in my CSS in this particular style sheet here. So what is the syntax for custom properties? So say it is dash dash. What's the name I want to give it? So I'm going to call it bg dash color. And what do I want to use? Let me say green. So this is what I want to use. So this means that anywhere inside this block here, I can reuse this dash dash bg dash color, and any of its child, I can reuse it there. So I can also say, let me give it another color, dash dash text dash color. So let's say the text color is going to be, what color can we use here? Let's say blue. Does it make sense? It doesn't have to make sense. So let's just say blue. Okay, now let's go and style. So how do we now use this variable that we have declared here? So I'm going to say that we want to give it a background color. So how do we use it? We say var, which is a function, and this function is going to take whatever we have declared. Is going to take it. So I'm going to say var dash dash bg color, which is going to be green. So if I save now, the background color is now green. Okay, so the next one is the text color. So if I say color and I say var dash dash text color, this now changes to blue. Doesn't look quite good for the eyes, but we'll just leave it that way. So this is how we use CSS custom properties. So this is just for color. I can create for paddings or for like values that I use for some other things. I'm going to ignore leave it here. I mentioned earlier that you can also use this in the child. So for example, if we go to the HTML, I have these three siblings that are inside the container div. So I can still use these variables that I've declared here in this container there. But apart from that, I cannot use these variables anywhere else. So I cannot use it in another div that is any other thing that is outside of this particular div. I cannot reuse it there. So for example, let's say that I remove this color here, which is going to make it go back to black. And I go outside and I select the h2, which has a class of title. So I'm going to say dot title. And I say color, I can say var, and I say dash dash text color. So that is going to be blue. Save now, it changes to blue if you look at this place here. So keep that in mind that you can do that, you can also have it that way. Yeah, I think that's all. If anything is outside, it's not going to work. So let's add a simple h1, and let's just give it. We don't need to give it a class. Let's just say h1. Let's say hello. So it says hello. Now it's not inside the div. Let's try to use any of these thing here in it. So I'm going to say h1. We're selecting h1, and then we're going to say that the background color should be the background color we declared in our container. So say dash dash bg dash color. And if I save, nothing happens because it is not a child of the container. So let's say we move it down there. Let me go pick it up and then move it here after the buttons. If I save, you notice that the background is also green, but you might not really notice that because the background for the container itself is green. So let's change it to be the text. So I'm going to say text. So that should be make it blue. So if I save now, the background is now blue. It's taken from what we gave here as the text color, but we just use it for background here, and then you notice that it turns to blue. So if I pull that outside, if I take this h1 and I move it outside of the div, this styling does no longer apply. So that is that. So that is one way we can write it. But like I said, you have to, is either you use it here or in the element that are inside of this particular uh, whatever, whether it's a div or main or section or whatever that you have declared. Now, I don't think you would want to do that all the time. There are some times that you want to scope it to only be available in this kind of instance. But now let's look at the other way that we can write uh, CSS custom properties that will be available to be used anyhow you like it. Maybe you want to use it anywhere. It doesn't have to be, oh, it must be a child of this, it must be a sibling of this or whatever. So let's look at that. I just commented this out. I'm going to go at the top here to create those variables. So to create the variables that will be used everywhere, like global variables, we have to say colon root. So this root matches the root element of the tree representing a document. So curly braces. So let's create some variables. What we're going to do here is let me save so that this styling goes away. Okay, now it's away now. What we're going to do here is that we'll create we're just going to use a simple thing. We have a background color for the body. Now when you click on dark in our JavaScript, when we actually work on the JavaScript, when you click on dark, we'll be on the dark, like in a dark mode or something. Then when you click on light, we change it back to like a light mode. So we're going to start off with it being on dark. We're going to start off with it being on dark. So I'm going to say the background color should be bg dash color, and we're going to say that it's going to be dark initially. So we're going to say hash. So it's dark initially. Oh, really? Then the text dash color is going to be, we're going to start off with white. So it's going to be white. Now let us create a value. So let's say value. I'm going to say one rem. That is my value. So I can use this value. I'll be able to reuse it for paddings, for margins. Anytime I want spacing, I can just reuse this value here and calculate my spacing. So I think this is that. What else can I do? Let me add some colors. Now these names I'm giving, you can use it. You can give any name like that you like. So let me use the colors. For example, people do sources. So let's say they have maybe a success message, something like that. But I'm actually not using it for that purpose. I'm just going to use it to manipulate. We have here, and I'm going to have another one. Let me call it something. I don't know anything. Let's say disabled or so. So I'm going to say gray, something like this. I don't know. Yeah, I think this is fine. So we have three colors here. Now let's go and use them. So I'm going to go to my body. I'm selecting only the body this time around. I'm going to say background color. How do we use it? Like again, we say var dash dash bg color. So if I save, nothing, you're not going to see anything anymore because this is black and then the background is black, it's going to be gone. Oh, sorry, I think I am not creating it correctly. Let me remove this quotations from there. I think that's why. So if I save again, now everything is dark. You would not see anything. So let's go add the text color. So I go to the color. We're going to say var text colors, which is white. So with this now, you are able to see the color because the background is black and then the text is white. So what else do we want to do? Let's give a padding or a margin. So let's give it a margin or around, let's say margin of 2 rem. Let me see. No, so 1 rem should be fine. Margin 1 rem so that you can get a spacing. Now let's select the container itself, the class container, and I want it to have a background of our sources. So we're going to say var dash dash sources. And if I save, you see the greenish color. Let us also give it a padding so that the elements inside wouldn't be touching the edges. So let's give it a padding of 2 rem. So yeah, I think that's it. But one thing I can see here is that instead of using these values like this, we could reuse what we declared above in our root, this value here. We can reuse that. So how can we use that? So let's go back to here. We can use the CSS calc function to calculate. So this function, this calc, you use it to calculate, to perform calculations in your CSS. For example, let's say we want, this is 1 rem, so we can say var, inside the calc function, we can say var dash dash value, and then outside, we say times 1. So this is just going to be the same thing. What we're just simply doing is var dash dash value, which is going to be 1 rem, times 1, which is simply 1 rem. And then we go back here, and we can see that this is going to be calc. So we're calculating that. Say var dash dash value, we'll say times 2. And that is that. So if I want to reduce these things right now, I can just go back to the root here and let's say I change this to 0.5. If I save, they reduce if you look at it here. So very easily like that, I can just reuse it everywhere. So I think I will leave it at 0.5. Yeah, I guess so. So I can reuse it everywhere. So instead of having to declare margins, padding, unit, the values everywhere, I'm reusing what we have in the root. So anyway I want to use it, I can just calculate it and then increase or decrease based on what I want to do. All right, so that is that for this one. What else do we want to do? So we have our button, and I think I'm just going to leave this button like this. We already have what I want to showcase. Now, what else do we want to know about custom properties? The other thing we need to know about custom property is that we can also provide a fallback. So for example, if you provide a color that doesn't exist, for example, maybe color is the thing that you can see the most, so that's why I kept using that. So let's say in our background color for the container, which is green, let's say we try to use, so in our background, in our container background color, let's say we try to use something that doesn't exist in our root. Let's say we say warning. We don't have any warning here. We don't have any warning, so let's try to use warning. So we say warning. Now nothing is going to work. It's just going to inherit and simply be black. But we can provide a fallback color. Say if you can't find that, you can just say, let's say red. And then what happens? So when this is run, it goes to the root. Is there a warning? No, there is no warning. Then it just falls back to this one. So you can also pass another function here, the var function, and pass another color and just keep going. I just wanted to show you that you can also pass a fallback here. So I'm going to remove that. Okay, I save back. Now we have this. Now also, if you pass an invalid one, for example, we know that the value here, if you go back, is like a you have rem 0.5 rem, and let's say you try to use it for color. Let's say we go back here and you see, instead of, so say now say value and you save. Now it will be ignored because it is invalid. You cannot say that a color is 2 rem, so that's going to be ignored. Start getting ignored. Maybe you are using it in the wrong place. So let's go back. Now we have this as our page. Now, how do we manipulate this with JavaScript? I don't have much things here, so let's go to the JavaScript part of it. So let's go back to our index.html. As the last thing before the body, let's add a script tag. And the script is going to be inside ./js slash main.js. So if you go to our Explorer, you see the JS folder, and then you have the JS file inside. So to confirm that our file has been linked fine, let's just alert something. So we say alert, we say hello. And then pretty well, if you look at the browser, you see the hello there, see hello. So it works fine. So our JavaScript is linked fine. All right, so let's now deal with this. So like I said, what we're just going to do is, if you click on dark, we are just going to change the body background to dark. If you click on light, we're going to change it to what we have here, to light, I mean. So let's select the buttons. So say const dark, which is the button for dark, and we're going to say document. Let's select light. Okay, so we have selected the buttons dark and light. Now let's also select the body. So I'm going to say, now I think we have, let's select the container and the title. I'm going to say const. I've selected them. I'm going to enlarge this so that we can see everything at once. One thing that I need to do for the body, the container, and the title is that I want to work on their style. So I'm just going to say dot style. I don't need the element itself. I just want to style it. What's it dot style? So instead of going to repeat that in every part where I'm going to use it, it's better I just do it once here. So let me start with the first one. If you click on dark, before I start with that, let me create a variable. Let's create an object that is called colors. So say const colors. Let's just go back to our CSS and let's copy everything in the root. Let's come here and let's grab an object and I will paste this here. Now, this is not the same thing. This is an object, so I need to put this inside a quotation, and I also need to use comma instead of semicolon. And I think I also have to fix this one. Let me see. And then I think I'll change this to bg_color, text_color. Yeah, I think that is that. Now this is not color only, so even though I would actually just be changing the colors, so what I'm going to do is I'll remove this one that is not a color. Yeah, so these are just colors. So I have this variable declared here. Now I've selected these guys here. So what am I going to do? I want to go back and say if dark. So if this does, oh sorry, if dark, if it's not equal to null, then I'm going to say dark dot add event listener, and I want to listen for a click event. So when you click on it, I'm going to perform some action. So how do we now change those things that we have declared in our CSS? How do we change it? How do we change these things from JavaScript? So what I'm going to do is this. Let me split this again. We're going to say body. So once you click on the dark button, which is what we are currently right now, I'm going to say body dot set property. So I'm going to set this property. And what property do we want to set? Remember that in our body, if you go to the body, the background color has a var dash 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 bg dash color. So we want to change that. So we have it currently, it is black. So I'm going to say dash dash bg dash color, and we want to set this property to be white. So we're going to say colors at white. Do we have a color white? Text color, I believe. Text color, which is the white one. I'm just using the same thing that we have in a, what's it called again? In a, no, sorry. The When you click on dark, it actually wants it to be dark. So I'm going to say, what's it called? BG color. So I say BG color. So that is that for But then, what about the text? Let's take a look. So the text is white. So let's also set that. So I'm also going to say body dot set property. What property is that? Dash dash text dash color. And we want to set it to white. So I'm going to say colors and text color, which is going to be white. All right. So those are the things we would have here. Now we are on dark mode already. So let's also set the container to green. So what we are just doing is that we want it to look like what we have currently right now. So we are going to say container dot set property. What property is that? Let's take a look at our CSS. We go to the container. It has a background of dash 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 sources. So I'm going to say dash dash sources. Sources. And we are just going to see set it to colors sources. So this all the thing we have done here is simply going to make us have what we have currently on our browser. Now let's go to the light part of it. So I'm going to copy this and then I'll go down, I'll paste it, and this time I'll change this to light. So if it is not null, we want to do the opposite of what we did here. So if it is not null, let me enlarge this. If it is not null, okay, let's change this to light. Then we are attaching an event list now, and we are saying that change this property dash dash bg dash color to be text color. So this is going to make it to be white. And then the text color should be changed to what the background color is, which is black. So I'm going to say bg color. And then if the text color is black, what should we give for the container? Okay, let me just change this to blue, I guess. Blue is blue fine. Let's say orange. Orange. So if you're on light mode, if you're on light disabled, I don't know why I called it disabled, but don't worry, you can call it a better, you can give it a better name. So let's go back and check it. So if I click on light now, it works fine. If I click on dark, it works fine. So with this now, you can be able to toggle your CSS custom property, toggle it to whatever you want, change it from your JavaScript. So you can now write custom CSS properties and reuse it, and also you can play around with it, toggle it, do whatever you want to do with it. So that is that for CSS property. And also remember how I was able to calculate uh, paddings and the margins using this value here, which saves me for the stress of having to keep writing that over and over and again. All right. So with this being said, we have been able to learn CSS custom properties and also manipulate it from our JavaScript. All right. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly click the subscribe button